Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to store dried fish so it doesn't dry out. Dried fish is a delicious and nutritious snack, but it can be difficult to keep it from becoming too dry and brittle. In this video, I'll share some tips and tricks on how to store dried fish properly so that it stays fresh and flavorful for as long as possible. So, if you're ready to learn how to keep your dried fish from drying out, then let's get started. Start by choosing high-quality dried fish. Look for fish that is evenly dried, with no signs of mold or spoilage. The flesh should be firm and have a pleasant aroma. Avoid fish that is excessively dry or brittle, as this can indicate poor storage or over-drying. Consider the type of dried fish you are storing. Different types of dried fish have different storage requirements. For example, salted fish will require different storage methods than unsalted fish. Think about how you plan to use the dried fish. If you plan to use the fish within a few weeks, you can store it at room temperature. However, if you plan to store the fish for longer periods, you will need to refrigerate or freeze it. Sun drying. This is a traditional method of preserving fish in many cultures. The fish is cleaned and salted, then laid out in the sun to dry. This method can be effective in hot, dry climates, but it is important to protect the fish from insects and animals. Smoking. Smoking is another traditional method of preserving fish. The fish is smoked over a fire, which helps to dry it out and kill bacteria. Smoked fish can be stored at room temperature for several weeks. Salting. Salting is a very effective way to preserve fish. The salt draws out moisture from the fish, which inhibits the growth of bacteria. Salted fish can be stored at room temperature for several months. Pickling. Pickling is a method of preserving fish in a vinegar solution. The vinegar helps to kill bacteria and preserve the fish. Pickled fish can be stored at room temperature for several months. Freezing. Freezing is the best way to preserve dried fish for long periods. Frozen fish can be stored for up to a year. However, it is important to thaw frozen fish properly before eating it. Store dried fish in a cool, dry place. Avoid storing dried fish in direct sunlight or in humid conditions. Keep dried fish in an airtight container. This will help to prevent the fish from drying out or absorbing moisture from the air. Label the container with the date the fish was dried and the type of fish. This will help you to keep track of how long the fish has been stored. Inspect the dried fish regularly for signs of spoilage. If you see any mold or other signs of spoilage, discard the fish immediately. By following these tips, you can store dried fish safely and enjoy it for months to come. Dried fish can be stored in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks. Wrap the fish tightly in plastic wrap or aluminum foil before storing it in the refrigerator. This will help to prevent the fish from drying out. You can also store dried fish in the freezer for up to 6 months. Again, wrap the fish tightly in plastic wrap or aluminum foil before freezing it. When you are ready to eat the fish, thaw it in the refrigerator overnight. Dried fish can also be stored in airtight containers at room temperature. This is a good option if you plan to eat the fish within a few days. However, if you are storing the fish for longer than a few days, it is best to store it in the refrigerator or freezer. When storing dried fish in an airtight container, make sure that the container is completely sealed. This will help to prevent the fish from drying out and absorbing moisture from the air. Here are some additional tips for storing dried fish. Do not store dried fish in direct sunlight or in a humid environment. If you notice any mold or mildew on the dried fish, discard it immediately. Dried fish can be rehydrated by soaking it in water for a few hours. I hope this information helps you to store dried fish properly. Enjoy!